Welcome my dear students. In today's session we are going to discuss some of the questions of practical number 2 in which we discussed about different types of tissues. In practical 2 we learned about plant tissues and animal tissues. In today's session we will discuss some of the questions which are related to that practical only. So let us begin. The first question here is, name the type of tissues present in the husk of coconut. So children, when I was teaching you sclerenchymatous tissue, I told you that these tissues are very special, and to learn its quality, it's better to learn its example. And the best example is coconut. Everyone must have seen coconut at home while making that coconut chutney. So you must have experienced that the outer shell and the hair-like projections which are present on the coconut are very hard in structure. So these are actually sclerenchymatous tissues, which are dead tissues. These tissues have so much of strength in them. That is why it makes that part very rigid. Not only here, sometimes in the outer coating of seeds, these tissues are also present. So it makes that seed very hard and it makes the protective covering around the seed. Now moving on to the next question, which is, name complex permanent tissues in plant. This question is very easy. I hope you all must be knowing the answer of this. That is xylem and phloem. So the next question is, where can you find meristematic tissues in plants? Answer is at the growing points of the plant. Wherever the plant grows in its length or into the depth, or we can say wherever the plant is growing vertically and horizontally, everywhere at these parts, these tissues are present. So in a single sentence we can say that it is present at the growing points of the plant. These growing points can be tip of root, which grows down towards the gravity or towards the center of the earth, or it goes deep into the soil. So in that part these tissues are present. It is also present in the shoot tip, and it is also present in the lateral parts of the stem. Now the next question is, name the plant tissues that provide strength to the plant. Easy question. Answer is sclerenchyma tissue. What are the features of striated muscle fiber? Where do we find them in our body? These striated muscle fibers are called as striated because of certain special characteristic feature in their structure. That special characteristic feature is the presence of dark and light bands on it, and that too these dark and light bands occur alternatively one after the other. Suppose it is a dark band, this is a light band. So it will be again a dark band, then light band. Like this way there will be alternative occurrence of both type of bands, which makes a very specific pattern on these muscles. And this pattern is something like striations, big lines, like zebra has striations on it. In the same way, these bands, dark and light bands, forms the striations on these muscles. That is why these muscles are called as striated muscles. These muscles are attached to the bones to facilitate the movement of these bone or to help in movement of that particular part of the body. Now the next question is, name different parts of neuron. Children, neuron is very, very important because it is a main control system of your body. Heart is very important, and the other important organ which is or other important system in your body is your nervous system. So you will see that in higher classes we will study so much about this nervous system, and we will go in detail with that. So let us begin that study of neurons in this class only. So neuron has basically three parts. The main upper part, which has a star-like structure, is known as cell body or cyton, and then it has a long projection coming out of it, which is called as axon. At the end part of cyton, there are some branch-like structure, brushes-like structure, that is called as dendrites. So there are three main parts in a neuron, that is cyton or cell body, dendrites and axon. Now, where is nerve cell found in our body? The nerve cell is present in brain, spinal cord and in other nerves also. Now, there is another question which is just out of your textbook, but it is very, very interesting. You know that when you get prick or some cut here, how that sensation goes to your brain, and again how that brain gives some command or gives some message, and accordingly you take action. So what happens? Is that a single neuron which is connected from brain to your this body part or to your to the tip of your finger? No, there are so many nerves which are connected to each other, which help in transmission of nerve impulse. So how that nerve impulse travels in our body? We are going to study more about this in 10th standard, but let me introduce you a bit about this because it is interesting. There is one neuron, and the neuron, this one neuron is connected to another neuron, not directly. There is some gap. It is very close to another neuron. Similarly, this next neuron is connected to another neuron and so on. So, if one neuron is connected to another neuron, although it is not a physical connection, there is a little bit of gap which is known as cleft, synaptic cleft. And in that synaptic cleft, there is a synapse. Synapse means two neurons are coming very close to each other and helping in conduction of electrical nerve impulse. So this forms the structure which is known as synapse, where one neuron is ending and another neuron is just starting. It is just next to each other, very close to each other, and this helps in conduction of nerve impulse. So moving on to the next question, that is, in what form do the signals travel in neurons? There are so many neurons which are present in our body, and they are connected to each other. That is why it is possible that whatever sensation which we get at the tip of your finger reaches to your brain, and from brain again a message is given, and accordingly you take action. So there is some connection. How this connection is formed? This connection is formed in the form of so many neurons. These many neurons are connected to each other, and these neurons help in conduction of nerve impulse. When you got any sensation here in your fingers, say for example, if your finger gets a cut here because of by mistake just keeping your hand on the needle or any sharp material, then what will happen? This will take a sensation, and that neuron will convert it into the form of this neuron 1. Say for example, we are giving a name to that neuron as neuron 1. This neuron 1 will take that sensation in the form of electrical impulse, and this is neuron 1 which is taking this sensation in the form of electrical impulse. Now this is neuron 2 which is just next to each other, this one, neuron 1. Now there is one gap. If you will see it very clearly, there is a little bit of gap. It is not directly just attached to each other. there is little bit of gap, and this particular part where these are just very close to each other is known as synapse. And here some very interesting process takes place. One impulse is coming in the form of electrical impulse. Now at the end point of that neuron, this electrical impulse will convert into chemical impulse. How? By a secretion of a chemical which is known as neurotransmitters. In higher classes you will learn about the neurotransmitters. So the electrical impulse is now converting into chemical impulse, and again when it is coming into next neuron, neuron 2, it will again convert into electrical impulse. That is how this transfer of impulses takes place in our nervous system. So the answer to this question is, in neuron, the signals travel from electrical impulse to chemical impulse and again into electrical impulse. Now there are some other questions which are related to Viva. So these questions are very easy. Give an example of parenchymatous tissues. Children, we have already studied about different types of parenchymatous tissues. You can give an example of chlorenchymatous tissues which are present in the green part of the plant, and it provides, but its name suggests that chlorophyll pigment is present in it. That is why the name chlorenchyma is given to it. So it is present in leaves. Again, one more example you can give, that is arenchymatous tissues, and these tissues are present in aquatic plants. Aquatic plants are also known as hydrophytes. Hydro means water, phytes means plant. The plants which live in water are known as hydrophytes. In these plants, to provide the light weight to the plant or to provide buoyancy, these plants have some big air which is trapped inside them in the form of arenchymatous tissues. So you can give that example also. Now the next question is, give two examples of connective tissues. The very good and easy example is blood and bones. Now moving on to the next question, name a fluid connective tissue. Bones are not fluid connective tissue. So here your answer will be blood and lymph. Now moving on to the next question, name the simple permanent tissues of plant. There are three main types of simple permanent tissues in plant. These are parenchyma tissues, collenchyma tissues and sclerenchyma tissues. Name the complex permanent tissues of plant. The example is, this question is also very easy. The complex permanent tissue of the plant are xylem and phloem. Again, one more question is taken from nervous system, that is, what is neuron, or define neuron. So neuron is the nerve cell. It is a structural and functional unit of nervous system. Now one more interesting question is there. Name the muscle in animals that are multinucleated. These are striated muscles. Now one more question which is out of this textbook, that is, what is the study of tissues called? Study of tissues is called histology. Name the tissue which on maturity has dead cell. So the answer to this question is epidermal tissue, and the example is cock cell. Moving on to the next question, that is, what is the function of skeletal muscles in our body? Skeletal muscles are found attached to bones and helps in the movement of our body.